Fáilte. On behalf of Republican Sinn Féin Monaghan, I'd like to thank and welcome you all here today to Aniala on this, the 106th anniversary of the 1916 Easter Rising. So first on the agenda is the reading of our proclamation, and I'd like to call on John Connolly to read out the proclamation.
Public Nahairn. The Provisional Government of the Irish Republic to the people of Ireland. Irish men and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations from which she has received her old tradition of nationhood, Ireland through us summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. Having organised and trained her manhood through her secret revolutionary organisation, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and through her open military organisations, the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizens' Army, having patiently perfected her discipline, having resolutely waited for the right moment to reveal itself, she now seizes that moment, and supported by her exiled children in America and by gallant allies in Europe, but relying in the first on her own strength, she strikes in full confidence of victory. We declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland and to the unfettered control of Irish destinies, to be sovereign and indefeasible. The long usurpation of that right by a foreign people and government has not extinguished the right, nor can it ever be extinguished, except by the destruction of the Irish people. In every generation, the Irish people have asserted their right to national freedom and sovereignty. 6 times during the past 300 years, they have asserted it in arms. Standing on that fundamental right, and again asserting it in arms, in the face of the world, we hereby proclaim the Irish Republic as a sovereign, independent state, and we pledge our lives and the lives of our comrades in arms to the cause of its freedom, of its welfare, and of its exaltation among the nations. The Irish Republic is entitled to, and hereby claims, the allegiance of every Irish man and Irish woman. The Republic guarantees religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunities to all its citizens, and declares its resolve to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation and all of its parts, cherishing all the children of the nation equally, and oblivious of the differences carefully fostered by an alien government which have divided a minority from the majority in the past. Until our arms have brought the opportune moment for the establishment of a permanent national government, representative of the whole people of Ireland and elected by the suffrages of our men and women, the provisional government hereby constituted will administer the civil and military affairs of the Republic in trust for the people. We place the cause of the Irish Republic under the protection of the Most High God, whose blessing we invoke upon our arms, and we pray that no one who serves that cause will dishonour it by cowardice, inhumanity, or rapine. In this supreme hour, the Irish nation must, by its valour and discipline, and the readiness of its children to sacrifice themselves for the common good, prove itself worthy of the august destiny to which it is called. Signed on behalf of the Provisional Government, Thomas Clark, Sean McDermott, Thomas McDonough, P.H. Pearce, Eamon Kent, James Connolly and Joseph Plunkett.
Thanks, John. Now, I'd like to call now on Clone Republican Martin Duffy to read out the leadership statement.
Easter statement on behalf of the leadership of the Republican movement. On this, the 106th anniversary of the Easter Rising, the leadership of the Republican movement sends greetings to Irish men and Irish women at home and abroad. We welcome home Jonathan Hawthorne, who was incarcerated in Portlaoise prison as a political prisoner. Well done, Jonathan, for your dignified stand on the stressful conditions. As we go forward, let us not forget our comrades who have passed away since last Easter, and especially we remember volunteer Don Hoban, Chief of Staff of the Irish Republican Army. We take this opportunity to send greetings to Sinn Féin Republic, the true Sinn Féin organisation, whose principal stand is in total contrast to the Quislings, who have brought their name into Leinster House in Stormont. Their grovelling apologies for IRA actions for their own electoral benefit is treachery. They have no right or authority to speak on behalf of the Republican movement. We declare that there is only one true Republican movement. Our history tells us that we have not diverted from a Republican position or responsibilities bestowed on us by previous generations. 100 years ago, the Republic was betrayed by abandoned reformist elements in position of great authority. The reformists won the vote of Dáil Éireann of the Treaty of Surrender by fear of immediate and terrible war by the British government. However, our comrades of that generation did not give up on these threats and hand over the Republic to the British and Free State allies. Volunteers of previous years struggled along with the new recruits continue to struggle. Every generation Republicans have done so. Let this generation be no different. To every Irish man and Irish woman, and especially the youth, who honestly believe in the cause of Irish Republicanism, take this opportunity to take a step forward and join the ranks of the Republican movement. We will not be found wanting and welcome you in the ranks. We have the motivation and experience to provide you with the leadership in which we will play your part as a dutiful citizen in the Irish Republic to oppose British rule in the occupied 6 counties. The Republican movement wants quality, not quantity. We are aware of foreign and naive attempts to infiltrate us. We are also aware of confusion among people to who the Republican movement is. Once again, let it be clear, the Republican movement consists of constituency branches including Sinn Féin Republic, Commemoration and the Sinn Féin Monaghan. Confusion is caused by the many groups who cropped up over the last 2 decades, organising from the reformist 1986 betrayal. Put your trust in our organisation. We have never diverted from the true path of Irish republicanism. To the Irish abroad, our children exiled, as it was claimed in the proclamation of 1916, once again we call on you for your assistance. We ask you to follow in the footsteps of Michael Flaherty and George Harrison. Your help will be much appreciated. Wherever Irish communities are found abroad, branches of Irish republicanism must be found also. The British state is pumping billions of pounds into security infrastructure in the 6 occupied counties. Is this a sign that the British disengagement or a settlement has been reached? No, it is not. The Irish people must be aware there is nothing normal about the 6 counties, the state or Stormont. It has been betrayed by a petitionist elite and the compliant media. There are more security personnel by capital in the 6 counties than any part of Britain or the 26 counties. As long as our 6 counties are occupied, Irish Republicans will continue to oppose British presence here. MI5 agents are placed throughout Ireland. Britain remains on a war footing to hold on to 6 counties. We continue to uphold the traditional Republican policy that we oppose to all military power blocks. We are subject and we recently rejected recent demands by the Free State politicians to end neutrality and join NATO. The hypocrisy of Free State leaders in the support of the right of the people of a foreign country to use armed struggle against the invader by denying the right of the Irish people to do likewise to rid Ireland out of British presence is striking. But the Free State is a British creation, as is partition. On the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday in Derry, it is indeed striking that the Irish citizens chained to welcome the power of Prince Charles Windsor on a recent visit to Ireland. The visit is part of the Free State of British policy of normalisation British rule in the 6 counties. In conclusion, the leadership of the Republican movement wishes to thank you all who assisted in the Republican cause in the past year and call on your continued good support. Almost a victory, not public debut, a leadership from the Republican movement 2020.
Thanks, Martin. We're now going to hold our wreath laying ceremony now, so on behalf of the James County Common here in Monaghan, I'd like to call on Aisling Loughran to lay a wreath. I'd now like to call on John Connolly to lay a wreath on behalf of the Republican movement. I'd now like to call on James Duffy. James is going to do a decade of the rosary.
Shed of our word along the grass, Tom Turn Lat, Spanner who rich in the north, Spanner who turd the bunnies, the neighbour war J. Orin, Park and Issue war Shan. Shed of our word along the grass, Tom Turn Lat, Spanner who rich in the north, Spanner who turd the bunnies, the neighbour war J. Orin, Park and Issue war Shan. Shed of our word along the grass, Tom Turn Lat, Spanner who rich in the north, Spanner who turd the bunnies. Shade of our word on the grass, the turn lot, Spanner who is below, Spanner with third bunnies. Shade of our word on the grass, the turn lot, Spanner who is below, Spanner with third bunnies. Shade of our word along the grass, the turn lot, Spanner who is below, Spanner with third bunnies. And you were a large Shade of our word along the grass, the turn lot, Spanner who is below, Spanner with third bunnies. And they were a large along Shade of our word along the grass, the turn lot, Spanner who is below, Spanner with third bunnies. And they were a large Shade of our word along the grass, turn lot, Spanner who is below, Spanner who turd the bunnies, and they were a large Lord and Maher, because the graphics and spirit, nor be a truce, nor plenish, nor be a skipper, the sea and the sea. Sibnus theory, don animal,
Thanks very much, James. We call a party and paper. We're now going to have the lowering of the flags. Now for our main speaker tonight, all the way from County Fermanagh, I'd now like to call on prominent Republican John Joe McCusker to give the main oration.
More an honour dumsa, I han shahan you a conch, than a dini moi, a county munican. Na berch fear kruga, a hetcher son, na hern, or an trucker la, mihiv, an ejeg, a fehe hen. A vi, Mihal, Maganini, August, Hamish, Maganini. Vi shed amacht, an Tranona shin, cushion the horch, Foblok na hern. Mayal shin, Kaihimage, Kovni yed agone. na bhlianta ag dul con king. Is Julgas oran sinna yenu. Suvni seer Guru Orhi. County Monaghan has a long and proud history of service in the cause of Irish freedom. The history reaching back into antiquity of time. Many of the people in this area will have heard an oral history of the Battle of Clontibret, when forces led by Q O'Neill, along with the Maguires and the McMahons, chased the English from the battlefield. The people of Monaghan will be aware of these and many historic events and the names of those involved in the fight for Irish freedom. People here will be aware of Bishop Heber McMahon, who was beheaded in Enniskillen in 1650. He was leader of the Ulster forces following the death of General Owen Roe O'Neill. Heber McMahon was from the Enniskillen area of County Monaghan. Following on from the Great Rebellion of 1798, which was led by Theobald Wolfe Tone, there was a great fear in the English Parliament that Ireland could be lost from their control and influence should democracy be allowed to grow and flourish. This prompted the English to establish a union between the two countries. This, referring to the undemocratic union thrust upon the Irish people in 1800, this was done by coercion, bribery and the establishment of rotten boroughs. The rotten boroughs becoming additional votes in the Irish Parliament, and they were needed to bring about the union. The Irish Parliament was also and is also referred to by historians as Grattan's Parliament in reference to the leader of the Irish Parliament at the time. While this was a parliament for the ascendancy Protestant class, there were many liberal people, including Henry Grattan, who favoured reform of that parliament with the inclusion of all Irish citizens. England saw the danger that Ireland could emerge a free nation, unperturbed by sectarian politics, and moved against this also. The Union was enacted on the 1st of January 1801. The repeal of the Union movement was led by Daniel O'Connell. It would be a stretch to say that Catholic emancipation followed from this undemocratic union, although many conformist and revisionist historians will say this. But Catholic emancipation was not achieved for another 30 years in 1829. And indeed, let me tell you, it would be a greater stretch to say that Catholics actually got emancipation, given that in 1968-69, 140 years later, people were out campaigning for one man, one vote across the northeastern 6 occupied counties. What Irish people there got was the baton and the bullet. Samuel Devaney, William Street, Derry, beaten on his own doorstep and died on the 17th of July 1969. Francie McCluskey, Dungiven, County Derry, beaten to death by the RUC in a baton charge on civil rights marchers on the 13th of the 7th, 1969. And the murder of 14 people in Derry on Bloody Sunday by England's elite parachute regiment. These incidents are to speak only of the few. The people of this area will also have heard their forebears speak of the monster rally here in Aniala on the 15th of August 1843, where up to 30,000 people gathered in the campaign for the repeal of the Union. The assembly here in Aniala was but one of a number of well-supported rallies in County Monaghan for the repeal of the Union. The repeal movement morphed into Charles Stewart Parnell's Home Rule campaign, and these campaigns were paralleled throughout the 19th century by the activities of the Ribbon Men and the Fenians of 1867. This type of political unrest was always abroad in our country. This was also the case in County Monaghan, bringing us right up to the period of 1916 and the War for the Freedom of Ireland. The names Rice, Carbery and Callan were those associated prominently with the Fenian movement in this area. Returning to Monaghan's contribution to the freedom struggle during the 19th century, Charles Gavin Duffy, Young Irelander, was the first editor of The Nation, the paper founded by the Young Ireland movement in the mid-19th century. Terence Bellew McManus, an associate of Charles Gavin Duffy, was also a Young Irelander who worked in Monaghan town. Following on from the Easter Rising and the ensuing events which happened here on the 30th of June 1921, bringing it home and personal to this parish. Imbued with the history of the Irish people's struggle for freedom, Michael and Thomas McEneaney joined the freedom struggle in this area. They were out with the local IRA companies from Clontibret and Aniala. What had them out specifically on the 30th of June 1921 was the enforcement of a boycott on Belfast goods. The McEneanys, along with others, were tasked with watching the Katy line. Specifically, they were watching for a bread van coming from that direction. This followed on from what was happening in the six counties where King George of England had come to Stormont Castle, County Antrim, on the 26th of June 1921 to open the partitionist parliament. The horror of the sectarian state had begun. For the Catholics and nationalists of the north, the political nightmare had started. All that has ensued from that day until the present day has been a consequence of partition. The pogroms of the 6 northeastern counties would see many hundreds of nationalists killed. 15 members of the McMahon family were killed in their home. The person responsible for these murders was a District Inspector Nixon of the RIC. He was second in command within a group known as the Cromwell Club. Their methods was an effort to strike terror into the nationalist people of the 6 counties, lest they offer any resistance to partition. England had once again all the angles covered. Along with this military terror, the nationalist people were being thrown out of work in Belfast and Portadown by their sectarian employers because of their religious and nationalistic views. The Belfast boycott, it was hoped, would cause unionist employers to have a rethink on this course of action. And this is what these pair of men were involved in at the time that they were shot by the auxiliaries. In any event, a detachment of auxiliaries came upon the local IRA companies, and specifically the McEneanys at Kerrs Lane, and they were shot. The last post, which is the Republican Journal issued to remember all those who died for the 32 County Republic, states Michael McEneaney, Balledy, County Monaghan, the 30th of 6, 1921, killed by British forces, Kerrs Lane, Aniala, buried Aniala churchyard. Thomas McEneaney, Corlalaka, County Monaghan, the 30th of 6, 1921, killed by British forces, Kerrs Lane, Aniala, buried here in Aniala churchyard. With regard to County Monaghan, other notable figures in the cause of the 32 County Republic were volunteer James Connolly, 1916, signature to the Irish proclamation of the 32 County Republic. Fergal O'Hanlon, who fell along with Sean South from Garryowen, County Limerick, on New Year's Day in 1957, attacking Brookborough RUC barrack. The youth of the late 1950s and early 1960s grew up singing the songs of resistance, listening to the stories of Operation Harvest and these 2 young men who gave their lives in the cause of Irish freedom. There was a certainty growing up in those days that the fight for Irish freedom would soon be set to continue. Volunteer Sean McKenna Clara, who died following his release after a beating he got from jailers, while held as a prisoner of war in Longkesh. Volunteer James Lina Monaghan, who died at Loughgall, County Armagh, attacking an RUC barrack along with 7 of his comrades. Volunteer Thorlock Michael Wayne Knockathallen, Scottstown, killed in active service following his capture by the SAS. Not one of these Irish volunteer soldiers died for the 26th County Free State or the continued partition of our country. ISJ Goroa Anamakta. Importantly, it must be recognised that the bedrock of all resistance to England's rule depends on the people of an area. And over the last 101 years since the partition of our country, the Irish Republican movement have always found ready support in the county of Monaghan. The democratic right of the Irish people to be free had been ignored, and the threat of immediate and terrible war won the day for the imperialist English government. There was no consent by the Irish people, only coercion by the English government. Some of us find ourselves in an ideological bind, and sometimes we ask ourselves the question, why? Why not give the politicians a chance in the 2 partitionist parliaments to sort the problems of Ireland? Well, the full answer is out there somewhere. Perhaps it may be better answered by the events which eventually bring about the 32-county republic. But for now, some of the answer comes from the historical lessons which are there for all to see. Back here, this spot, in 1931, Sinn Féin members, IRA volunteers and Fianna Fáil members were all here together at a wreath laying ceremony. To these very same 2 men we are remembering this evening. Many IRA volunteers helped the fledgling Fianna Fáil gain a foothold in this community. All done, without doubt, to oust the Clan government led by William T. Cosgrove to oust him from power. Dr. Ward, Fianna Fáil, and a former Sinn Féin Ard Collier member laid the wreath on that day. In 1932, the next year, the whole scene had changed. The split in the Republican cause was wider. The Sinn Féin speaker on this occasion stated that Dr. Ward, Fianna Fáil, should not have used the name of these 2 volunteers to further the cause of Fianna Fáil, as these 2 men died in the cause of a 32-county Irish Republic. Where would we be had all Republicans followed Eamon de Valera? I put it to you that Irish reunification would be a distant thing of history, especially when we hear the likes of Micheál Martin, leader of Fianna Fáil, starting now to equivocate and reapply the terms of the Good Friday Agreement. As you are all aware, Republican Sinn Féin are opposed to the Good Friday Agreement. We recognise only one constituent in the vote for Ireland's freedom, and that was expressed in the election of 1918, where over 2/3 of our people voted to be free. Nevertheless, it is interesting to see that if there were any chance that there might be delivered anything in terms of the 32-county republic, they, the Dolly mixture of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, are out to redefine and in fact recoil from anything approaching All-Ireland unity. Where would we be had Republicans followed Sean McBride, even though he was a more honourable type of person? It is to be noted, neither he nor de Valera stole the name of Sinn Féin when they entered into the parliaments of the English Crown. And I do want to say on a personal note that Sean McBride did help and support and do all he could for the hunger strikers back at that time. Where would we be had we adopted the position taken by Thomas McGilla and Pontius de Rosa? The Republican position would be well lost in the complete turnaround adopted by these people. Now it upsets me to have to say this, had we all gone with Gerry Adams. we would now be calling our 6 occupied counties Northern Ireland and the 26 counties Ireland. This is where the politics of John Hume and Bertie Ahern have led the people and fooled the people. Jerry Adams and Provisional Sinn Féin have, like all the rest of clever politicians, brought the people back to the policies of surrender and regrant. I'm all right, Jack, so you know what the rest of you can do. Surrender and regrant was a situation back in the 17th, 18th century, where the British, whenever you came and made your peace with them and surrendered, they allowed you to rule your own territories. And that was what surrender and regrant was. And that is where we are today. Provisional Sinn Féin are ruling us on the part and on behalf of the British government. Republican Sinn Féin shall continue to lead Irish Republicans towards the 32-county All-Ireland Republic. We do not recognise two countries in Ireland. To this end, we are starting a national poster campaign to highlight the issue to our people and call out those politicians who are accepting of such an affront to every nationalistic person in our country. Democracy was always a scarce commodity in Irish history. I would recommend to the Unionist people to read their history. It is time for them to come to their senses and recognise the gift which is theirs if they have the wisdom to accept it. And you know, I'm not talking about more petition and a sovereign document vested in a foreign power. I am saying to the Unionist people, let go English imperialism and give what is there for all of us, to all of us. Do not look for crumbs from an Englishman's table. The economic condition of our country has been beset by unfair tithes, taxes and trading tariffs, by land clearances, worsened by the tragic hunger of our people when our potato crop failed. And then England, seeing another opportunity to enhance their grip on our country, offer our people the passage to leave the land of Ireland, which they did in their millions. This country, had we had our own native governance, should have a population approaching 15 million people. And we shall have one day a larger population than 7 million. Perhaps as many as 10 or 12, which in of itself will be a self-sustaining economic driver. And Public Debut.
Now folks, in memory of all the gallant men and women who died for Irish freedom, we're going to have a great Republican musician going to sing a few ballads. Give you a big hand there for Brandon McCourt, please.
As down the glen one Easter morn, the city fair rode I. Her armed lions of marching men in squadrons pass me by. No pikes did hung, no battle drum, its sound, its loud tattoo. But the Angelus bell of the Liffey swell rang out in the foggy June. Right proudly high over Dublin town, they flung up the flag of war. Oh, it was better to die neath an Irish sky, a soup there sun as far. And from the plains of royal mead, strong men came hurrying through, while Britannia's Huns with their long-range guns sailed in through the foggy June. It was England bade our wild geese go, a small nations might be free. And by soothless waves on long, long waves, on the fringe of the great North Sea. Or had they died where Pierce's side, or fought with Cahill Brule, their names we would keep where our Fenians sleep, in a shroud of the foggy June. And through the glen I rode again, my heart with grief was sore. For I parted with those valiant men that I'd never seen no more. And to and fro in my dreams I go, I kneel and pray for you. Oh, slavery fled down your glorious when you fell in the foggy June. Come all you young rebels, and listen while I sing. For the love of one's country is a terrible thing. It banishes fear with the speed of a flame. It makes us all part of the patriot game. My name is O'Hanlon, and I just turned 16. My home is in Monaghan, where I was weaned. I learned all my life cruel England to blame. A sea may be part of the patriot game. They told me how Conley was shot in a chair, till all bleeding and bare, his fine body twisted, tortured and laid. That soon made me part of the patriot game. It's 32 years since I wandered away with a local battalion at a Foul IRA. And I read all those heroes and I wanted to say, and I play my own part in the patriot game. This island of ours has far from been free. 6 counties are under John Bull's tyranny, and most of our leaders are greatly to blame for failing their part in the patriot game. And now as I lie here, my body all whole, I think of those traitors who bargained and sold. And I wish that my rifle had given the same, There's christenings is all out the patriot game. So come all you young rebels, and this while I say, the love of one's country is a terrible thing. It banishes fear with the speed of a flame. It makes us all part of the patriot game. It makes us all part of the patriot game. It makes us all part of the patriot game.
Big hand again there for Brendan. Thanks, Brendan. Folks, on behalf of the James Conlon Common here in Monaghan, a big thank once again to everybody for coming. I'd like to thank everybody who participated in tonight's commemoration. I want everybody now to send forward the flag now, and our paper's going to play us out now with a round of air.
Rod!